Now, in 2005, the world watched in horror as Hurricane Katrina tore through the US city of New Orleans, killing more than 1,800 people.
Ray Nagin was the mayor of New Orleans when that storm hit. In a moment, we'll be speaking to him. But first, here's how he reacted at the time.
I've talked directly with the president. I've talked to the head of the Homeland Security. I've talked to everybody under the sun. I've been out there, man. I flew these helicopters, been in the crowds, talking to people, crying, don't know where their relatives are. I've done it all, man. And I tell you, man, Garland, I keep hearing that it's coming. This is coming, that is coming. And my answer to that today is BS. Where is the beef?
Well, Ray Nagin is in Australia at the moment to attend a conference on emergency management and business continuity, and he joins us now from Sydney. Ray Nagin, good morning.
Good morning to you. It's wonderful to be back in Australia.
And it's wonderful to have you on board. Now, as you listen back to that radio interview, which I think you gave 4 days after the crisis struck, what's the first thought that goes through your mind?
Well, the first thought that goes through my mind is I'm still amazed that that actually happened in the United States, a country that has so many resources. And for some reason, Hurricane Katrina overwhelmed not only local government, but the state and the federal government. So I've been going all around the world talking about my experience, and hopefully we won't ever see another Katrina-like event ever in our lifetime.
Now, you've written a book just out on what happened during those dark days. You point the finger of blame in various directions, including at the US President George W. Bush. But you also say you could have done things a whole lot better as the mayor directly in the city. Like what, for instance?
Well, you know, Katrina was a historic, catastrophic event, so no one had ever gone through anything like that. So obviously we all made mistakes. One of the things that I think about a lot is, could I have called for a mandatory evacuation a little bit earlier? I had about a 10-hour window. It was overnight, so I'm not sure it would have made a difference. But as the leader of that city, it was the first time we ever called a mandatory evacuation in over 300 years, almost 300 years in New Orleans. So I think about that. Would that have made a difference? Would it have saved any lives?
How damaging was it that there weren't clear lines of authority at the time the hurricane and subsequent flood hit?
Well, the lines of authority were an issue. One of the things that was happening is our president and our governor, they were on opposite ends of the political spectrum. One was a Republican, one was a Democrat, and they were tussling over control of the resources and the recovery dollars that were coming later. So the lack of a clear line of authority really hampered and delayed the rescue missions, and that's one of the things I talk about a lot in my book.
What lessons would you like Australian communities, like those, for instance, in Queensland that are still recovering from devastating floods early this year, what lessons would you like them to garner from your experience in New Orleans?
Well, the big lesson is that, you know, when you have a disaster that's catastrophic and that does major damages, it basically takes a significant amount of time to recover. History teaches us that it takes 10 to 15 years. I know most people don't like to hear that, but if you look at Kobe, Japan, you look at Watts in Los Angeles, and then you look at the 9/11 site in New York, it takes quite a bit of time. So patience is very important, and make sure that whatever you're doing, you're rebuilding better and stronger than ever before.
Well, 6 years on, where is the recovery at in New Orleans?
Well, at we just celebrated our 6-year anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, and the city is positioned for full recovery. We have about 85% of our citizens who have returned. We're one of the fastest growing cities in America. We have over $20 billion worth of construction activity that is happening. Our school system has been revamped. We have brand new medical complexes that are under construction. So there's lots of activity in New Orleans, but we still have a long way to go, but we're well positioned for full recovery.
In the months after the hurricane hit, Ray Nagin, you gave that famous speech where you talked about New Orleans always being a quote-unquote chocolate city. Now, you've written subsequently of your concerns that a lot of black Americans faced a lot of hurdles in coming back to some neighbourhoods of that city. How big a problem has that been?
Well, the reason why I made that speech was because there was lots of talk from some of the business community and from some of the elites, if you will, in our city, who were basically espousing a theory of socially re-engineering the city and for us to not allow people to come back. I categorically rejected that. They were primarily talking about places where African Americans lived, and I basically said that everyone had a right to return. Since that time, New Orleans has recovered not only its people, but its demographics. Prior to Hurricane Katrina, we had about 67% of the citizens were African American. Right now, it's at about 60 to 62%. So the thing that made New Orleans unique in its diversity is back, and I'm really proud of that.
And finally, is New Orleans ready to face, God forbid, another hurricane at the scale of Katrina, should it ever happen?
I think if another hurricane like Katrina hit New Orleans from the same direction, we would be okay. The Corps of Engineers has been working on and building a state-of-the-art comprehensive hurricane protection system and have spent almost $14 to $15 billion. So I think we're much better prepared.
Ray Nagin, former Mayor of New Orleans, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you, and it's great to be here as usual.